You ever work so long your bones hum? Not ache hum. Like they're vibrating in protest. That was me, trudging up the stairs after a double shift at the diner. Grease in my hair, tips in my pocket, dreams somewhere I'd stopped checking. And then I saw it, a neon pink eviction notice. IT flapped against my apartment door like a flag in a war I hadn't realized I'd lost. 30 days. No explanation. Just the city's cold stamp and a barely legible signature. No one to call, no one to blame yet. But I had a feeling my breath caught in my throat as I reached for the paper. For a second, I actually hoped it was a mistake. A mix-up. The kind of thing you laugh about later while poring over a too-sweet cup of coffee. But deep down, I knew. I knew who had done this. Bryce Harlan. The name dropped like a stone in my stomach. Real estate mogul. Political donor. Local celebrity in the worst way. He'd been quietly swallowing this neighborhood block by block for years, flipping buildings into luxury rentals and evicting anyone who didn't fit his vision. Families. Elders. People like me that I'd seen him once. A ribbon cutting for some glass and steel condo fortress on 3rd Street. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my rent for the year. And he smiled like nothing in the world could touch him. That smile stuck with me, too wide, too white, like it was trying to convince you it was human that I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, listening to my daughter Ava cough in the other room. Her asthma had flared again. Our meds were already overdue, and this place moldy vents and all was the best we could afford. I'd picked it for the proximity to the school, the bus line, the corner clinic. I never imagined we'd be forced out of it with a single sheet of paper. At dawn, I went down to the leasing office. Locked. Of course. The number posted outside rerouted me to an answering service. Leave a message after the tone. I left for. No one called back. That evening, after my shift, I went straight to the city council meeting. I didn't have a plan. Just rage and desperation. I walked in late, sweaty from the bus, and spotted him immediately. Front row. Bryce Harlan. He was reclining slightly, thumb scrolling his phone like none of this mattered. Like people's lives were paperwork. I waited until public comment. My name is Jordan Reese, I began, voice shaking. I live in Unit 3B of the Summit Apartments. Or, I did until yesterday. I work 2 jobs. I pay my rent. And I was served an eviction notice with no cause. I'm here to ask the council to look into this because I'm not the only one. A beat of silence. Then, a chuckle. From the front row, Bryce didn't look up. But loud enough for everyone to hear, he muttered, maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't be losing your home. Laughter. Not much, but enough. A few people behind him. Probably employees. Or investors. The room spun. My fists clenched. I didn't say another word. I walked out, heels clicking too loud, throat tight. But that night, as I stared again at the neon pink slip, something cracked open inside me. I stopped hoping for kindness. I stopped waiting for someone to fix it. I started digging. BY day, I played along. Smiled at regulars. Tucked away tips. Began quietly packing boxes. But at night, I became someone else. Someone quieter. Meaner. Focused. IT started with public records. Free online databases. Property transactions. LLC filings. Bryce's empire was built on layers holding companies inside holding companies, registered out of state. It took time, but I started peeling them back. I cross-referenced the name of my building's management company. Surprise, it traced back to a shell owned by a private equity firm. And on the board of that firm? Bryce Harlan. Each breadcrumb led to another. I found eviction records. Dozens. All recent. All in rapidly gentrifying zip codes. Always just before renovation permits were filed, the pieces were falling into place. One night, while poring over court filings, I remembered something my mother said once. We'd been standing on our porch, watching a banker in a suit pin a foreclosure notice to the front door. They take from people who won't fight back, she said. That banker? He was Bryce's father. I blinked at the screen. History wasn't repeating, it was rhyming. I began keeping files. Printed them. Annotated them. Highlighted names. Circled dates. I didn't know yet what I'd do with them, but I knew I'd need them. Someone would my neighbor, Letitia, noticed. She started helping. She used to be a paralegal. Smart. Brave. We worked together in her basement, files spread across an old folding table, laptop glowing with spreadsheets. Then one morning, she knocked on my door, trembling. She'd gotten a letter. No return address. Just a single sentence typed in bold. Back off, or next time it won't be your car windows. I checked my car. Sure enough, smashed. Glass like diamonds across the seat. I could have stopped. Maybe I should have. But instead, I posted anonymously on a tenant forum. Just a short note. If you've been evicted in the last 6 months from a Harlan-owned property, I want to hear from you. 46 replies by the next morning, stories like mine. Some worst, a single mom whose son has epilepsy. A retired teacher who'd lived in her unit since the 80s. A man with Parkinson's, forced out after a fake gas leak. All of them discarded. All of them afraid. I wasn't alone. I didn't have a plan yet, not really. But I had momentum. And anger. And a growing file. And I knew this much. Bryce Harlan picked the wrong woman to evict. The first time I broke into a file room, I did it with shaking hands and a Tupperware full of oatmeal cookies. IT wasn't a real break-in, nothing illegal. Just a little bending of rules at the building across town where my friend Danny worked nights as a janitor. The cookies were for the security guard, who'd grown fond of sugar and small talk. 10 minutes, Danny whispered as she swiped me in. You get caught, I don't know you. The office was clean. Too clean. Sterile, almost, like it was trying too hard to look forgettable. I found the filing cabinet marked evictions, Q1, and my hands went to work. I wasn't looking for secrets anymore, I was looking for patterns, fake inspections. Maintenance complaints logged days before eviction notices. Tenants cited for non-existent violations, leaky sinks, pet odors, noise disturbances. The papers weren't even trying to hide it. Just stamped and filed, as if that made them real. I snapped photos. Each one a piece of a larger picture. That night, I pinned them on the wall of Letitia's basement, my new headquarters. Each printout joined the growing collage of corruption. At the center, always, was the name, Bryce Harlan. But the deeper I dug, the more personal this became. It was a Sunday morning when I stumbled across the file that cracked something open inside me, a scanned complaint form from 1996. Address, 1450 Market Street. Listed under an older LLC, one of Bryce's first. That was my childhood home. I clicked open the PDF. My mother's name stared back at me. The reason listed for eviction? Repeated disturbances and failure to comply with lease terms. A lie. We were model tenants. My mother worked 2 jobs. We swept the porch, planted flowers. But she challenged a rent increase. Sent letters. Asked questions. That's what got us kicked out. I remembered her crying in the kitchen the night we packed. We didn't have boxes, just garbage bags and laundry baskets. We moved into a smaller apartment the next day. The asthma started not long after. I hadn't thought of that house in years. Now it was a high-end juice bar. I started dreaming in headlines. Real estate tycoon linked to wave of illegal eviction. Harlan empire built on fraud. I could see it. I could hear the click of reporters' cameras. I could feel the burn of his humiliation. But then I'd wake up and hear Ava coughing. Each step I took toward exposing him brought risk. I'd already lost my job, cutbacks, they said. But I knew better. Someone had called them, warned them. Letitia urged me to slow down. He's not untouchable, she said, but he's not stupid, either. She was right. Strange cars started parking near my building. Emails arrived with no content, just subject lines like, drop it, or you're next. I kept going. I reached out to a local reporter named Eli Tran. He worked for a small, independent news site. I'd seen his work on housing issues, gentrification. He answered on the second ring. If you've got the documents, he said, I've got the space to publish. We met in a cafe. I handed him a flash drive. Watched him scroll, his face changing with each file. "This is huge," he whispered. "But it's dangerous. He's got friends everywhere. Are you ready for that?" I wasn't. Not really. But I nodded. 2 days later, Eli published the story. It didn't make national headlines, not yet. But in our city, it hit like a thunderclap. The headline was simple: "Evicted by Design. A look inside Atlanta's eviction industry." He didn't use Bryce's name in the first run. Just data, quotes, maps. But the dots were there. And people connected them fast. On tenant forums, threads exploded. Hashtags bloomed. People shared their own stories. Some sent photos. Others posted screenshots. The truth was too big to stay buried. Letitia and I celebrated with cheap wine and takeout. But beneath the joy, I felt a tremor of fear. I was no longer invisible. And neither was Bryce. That weekend, a message was scrawled on the windshield of my car. "You think this is a game?" The next city council meeting was different. Protesters lined the steps. Cameras flashed. Someone handed me a homemade sign. Hashtag evict Bryce inside. Bryce wasn't smiling anymore. He glared at me from the same seat as before. His jaw was tight, his suit more expensive. But there was a crack in the armor now. During public comment, I stepped up to the mic again. "My name is Jordan Reese," I said. "I'm not just here for myself. I'm here for everyone who's ever been told they don't matter. Who've been pushed out of their homes by greed. Who've been silenced by fear." This time, there was no laughter. Just a low, steady cheer that grew louder with every word. That night, Eli called. "Bryce's lawyer just threatened a lawsuit. He's scared." That means you're close. Closer than I'd ever been. But what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was how far Bryce was willing to go to keep his empire intact. I was about to find out. My phone buzzed nonstop the morning the second article dropped. Harlan exposed. Pattern of predatory evictions. UNCOVRED. Eli had gone all in. This time, Bryce's name was right there in the headline. The story detailed everything: fake inspections, the maze of LLCs, quotes from evicted tenants, photos of crumbling staircases, and falsified documents. He'd even included a video interview. Letitia and me, side by side, our faces lit by righteous fire, and then the wildfire began. BY noon. Hashtag evict Bryce was trending in the city. By dusk, it was national. I watched the likes climb. Retweets. Comments. DMs. My face showed up on news clips. People were reposting my speech at the council meeting with subtitles. Journalists called. Activists reached out. A law school professor emailed, offering pro bono research help. It felt unreal, like watching my life happen on someone else's screen. But fame, even the righteous kind, is never free. That same week, Ava came home from school with her hoodie pulled over her head. Her eyes were red. "Someone printed your picture and taped it to my locker," she said. "They wrote 'snitch' across your forehead." My heart dropped. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Who did it?" She shook her head. "Doesn't matter. It's not just one person. It's everywhere now." She went straight to her room and shut the door. I stood outside it for an hour, holding a mug of tea she never asked for. The next day, my landlord called. Said the lease was being terminated early. He was under pressure. Couldn't explain from who. That night, I came home to find my car keyed again. Slurs this time. I started sleeping with a flashlight and a tire iron under my bed. Letitia tried to keep things normal, but she flinched every time the basement door creaked. Her husband stopped coming downstairs altogether. "I'm proud of you," she said once, eyes scanning the front window. "But maybe it's time to take a step back." I knew what she meant. This wasn't just noise anymore. It was risk. Real risk. But the fire was already lit, and I couldn't look away from the blaze. Then came the emailed, scanned letterhead from the city inspector's office. Confidential. Unofficial. It had been forwarded anonymously. The original sender? A city employee Bryce had contributed campaign funds to. The message was short. Get her off this or we both burn. Attached was an inspection log, altered timestamps, forged signatures, clearance on unsafe buildings. It was the kind of thing that ended careers, and maybe worst, I had leverage. For days, I thought about using it. I could threaten the inspector, force a statement, speed up the investigation, protect myself, my daughter. I even drafted the message. Saved it as a draft. Reread it a dozen times, but every time I hovered over send, I heard Ava's voice. Mom, you always tell me to speak up, even if your voice shakes. She deserved to see me stand up, not stoop. LOWSO. I deleted the draft. That same night, I got another call. The voice was smooth, rehearsed. Ms. Reese, my name is Cal Brannon. I represent a group of stakeholders concerned with your recent media presence. I'd like to offer a solution, something mutually beneficial. He didn't say the word hush money, but that's exactly what it was. 0.6 figures. Tax-free. No more press. No more stories. Sign the NDA, disappear quietly, and walk away safe. No harm, no lawsuits. I asked for a day. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, calculating. That money could get Ava into private school, pay off medical bills, move us somewhere safe. I could vanish. Start fresh, but fresh meant silence. And silence meant surrender. The next morning, I showered, dressed in my plainest clothes, and set up a live stream. My hands trembled as I spoke, but my voice didn't waver. I've been offered money to go quiet. I've been threatened, followed, but I'm not backing down. Bryce Harlan and the people who protect him count on fear. They think if they scare us enough, we'll stay silent. They're wrong. I showed the documents, named the names, played the clips, put everything out into the light. BY noon, the video had 1 million views. The city opened an ethics investigation. The district attorney announced a task force. A class action lawsuit was filed, and Bryce, he made the mistake of getting caught on camera in a parking garage, yelling at a reporter. The image went viral, him mid-rant, eyes bloodshot, tie crooked, finger jabbing the lens. Caption: This woman is lying trash. It backfired. Hard. I lost more after that. My bank froze my account due to a compliance audit. Ava's school held a surprise parent review. Our bus route was suddenly under construction. But the movement had grown beyond me. People I'd never met were hosting rallies, handing out flyers. A local coffee shop offered us a place to stay. A retired judge joined the lawsuit. The fire I started was no longer mine to contain, and then came the final blow. A knock at the door. A courier. Certified envelope, Harlan v. Reese. Notice of defamation suit. He was suing me for damages. I might lose everything, again. But this time, I had an army behind me. The courthouse smelled like old paper and polished tile. The kind of place that absorbs secrets and echoes footsteps. I sat at the plaintiff's table in a gray blazer that didn't quite fit right, my hands folded to keep them from shaking. Across the aisle, Bryce Harlan reclined in his seat like he was at a country club. His navy tie was pristine, the kind of quiet power people mistake for competence. His lawyer whispered something in his ear. He didn't even glance at me. They thought this was a formality. A scare tactic. That I'd cave, settle, apologize. But they didn't know what it had taken to get me here. Or what I had brought with me. The day after I received the lawsuit, the offers started coming again. Drop the suit, apologize publicly, and we'll withdraw. That was the gist of it. Wrapped in legal jargon. Delivered with sugar-coated threats that I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. Eli connected me with a lawyer named Priya Das. She had sharp eyes and a sharper voice. She took my case pro bono. This isn't just about defamation, she said. This is an intimidation suit. He wants to drag you through the mud, drain your savings, and make an example out of you. Let him try, I told her. We gathered everything: documents, testimonies, timelines. Letitia testified. So did Danny. Even Ava gave a statement. We cataloged every retaliation attempt, every threat, every fake charge, and eviction record. Priya turned them into a narrative so tight it squeaked. The trial opened quietly, but word got out fast. The gallery filled with reporters, activists, tenants, law students with notebooks. The judge, a woman named Rena Davis, had a reputation for not suffering nonsense. Bryce's team went first. Their lead attorney, a polished man with expensive cufflinks, painted me as a fame-hungry waitress trying to destroy a successful businessman. She weaponized social media, he said. She fabricated documents. She targeted Mr. Harlan out of personal bitterness. I sat still, jaw tight, then Priya stood. She didn't raise her voice, didn't posture. She simply walked to the center of the courtroom and began laying bricks. She showed emails, falsified inspections, city reports, testimonies from 62 tenants across 5 properties. Then she played the leaked video. Bryce's red-faced meltdown. Gasps. Pens stopped moving. Does this look like the victim? She asked. On the third day, Bryce took the stand. His answers were careful, polished. He called the lawsuits unfortunate, the evictions procedural, my claims overwrought. Then Priya asked him, Mr. Harlan, do you know what a maintenance strike is? He blinked. Excuse me? She repeated the question. A maintenance strike. It's when tenants, legally, withhold rent due to health or safety violations. Are you aware of this process? I'm familiar, in theory. In theory, she echoed. Then she displayed a photo of a cracked ceiling over a child's bed. Do you consider this habitable? He adjusted his tie. I can't confirm the authenticity of that image. Priya raised a thick folder, signed reports, certified timestamps, multiple buildings, same violations, same evictions. The jury watched. Bryce's mask slipped, just slightly. Outside the courtroom, the pressure mounted. Demonstrators stood on courthouse steps. Signs. Chants. A food truck donated lunches to tenant families waiting to testify. Local news stations aired nightly recaps. Bryce's PR team released statements, but they only fanned the flames. One night, Ava curled up beside me on the couch, watching clips on her phone. Mom, she said, they believe you. Tears burned behind my eyes. Not from relief. From something heavier, validation long overdue. On the final day of the trial, I took the stand. I told the truth. About the eviction notice. About Ava's health. About the threats. The fear. The choice to fight instead of flee. I didn't cry. Not until the last question. What outcome do you hope for, Ms. Reese? I looked at the jury. I want to live in a city where people matter more than money. Where my daughter doesn't have to wonder if we'll have a roof over our heads next month. Where someone like Bryce Harlan can't throw families into the street and call it business. Silence. Then the judge nodded. Court was adjourned. The jury would deliberate. The verdict came 3 days later. They ruled in my favor. Not only was the defamation claim dismissed, but the judge ordered an immediate injunction on all evictions from properties linked to Bryce's company's pending review. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed outside. Priya hugged me. Ava cried into my shoulder. Bryce didn't speak. He just walked out. Alone. The fallout came fast. Investors pulled out. Bryce's name disappeared from company boards. Multiple city officials were suspended pending ethics investigations. The Department of Housing launched a formal audit. He filed for bankruptcy within 2 months. The man who once owned half the skyline now lived in the shadow of his own scandal. But me, a nonprofit, bought my building. They offered me a new lease under my name, rent capped at affordable rates. They even let Ava help design the mural in the lobby. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were rooted. The sky above Puerto Vallarta was soft with early light, the kind that paints the ocean in gold and quiets even the busiest minds. I leaned back into the lounger, my legs still damp from the infinity pool, a margarita sweating in my hand. For the first time in a long time, I felt no urgency. No waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just the warm weight of peace in my bones. Ava's laughter floated over the water. She was racing another kid across the pool, splashing like she was 5 years old again. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her laugh without looking over her shoulder. My phone buzzed again, another message request. Another press inquiry. Another invitation to speak. I turned it over, face down on the table. Let them wait. I end the week since the verdict. The world had been a blur of headlines and handshakes. I'd spoken on panels about housing justice. I'd met with city officials. I'd even given testimony in front of a Senate subcommittee. But all that buzz, it didn't feel like mine. It felt like something I'd stepped into out of necessity, not desire. This trip was different. This was mine, a gift from the tenants' union, crowd-funded by people I'd never met. They'd booked a week for Ava and me at a resort with ocean views and fresh ceviche. The kind of place I used to pass on travel magazines and think, maybe someday. Someday came. Back home, things were still shifting. The nonprofit that bought our building had started a tenant advisory board, and they asked me to chair it. Ava's school offered her a scholarship to a summer arts program. And Letitia? She'd started a housing rights podcast that was already gaining traction. Bryce? He wasn't in hiding, but close. A former executive had leaked a photo of him arguing with a parking enforcement officer, his face red, his shirt untucked. The caption read, "From penthouse to parking tickets." He'd become a cautionary tale. Not just of greed, but of arrogance. Of thinking people like me wouldn't fight back. One afternoon at the resort, a woman approached me by the pool. Late 30s, sun hat, nervous energy. "Excuse me, are you Jordan Reese?" I nodded, cautious. She introduced herself as Melissa, a former leasing agent. She told me she'd seen my videos. Read the articles. She used to process evictions for one of Bryce's subsidiaries, but she'd quit after realizing what was happening. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, voice tight with emotion. "What you did, it made me rethink everything." I reached out, took her hand. "We all have a line, Melissa. You chose the right side." She smiled through tears, then walked away, shoulders straighter. That night, Ava and I sat on the balcony, watching the sun sink behind the ocean. "Do you think it's over?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I think we've started something no one can stop." She nodded, then leaned against my arm. We watched the last sliver of sun disappear. I closed my eyes, breathed in the salt air. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't dared to name before. Victory, not just in court, but in life. In reclaiming a story that others tried to write for me, I wasn't just Jordan Reese, the evicted tenant. I was Jordan Reese, the woman who refused to disappear. Who turned a pink slip into a revolution. Who proved that justice isn't about money or power, it's about persistence. And I wasn't done. But for now, the waves were enough.